And I'll get rolled up by some dudes from Iowa. I know I'm a little bit bigger
Dude,
guy, but that doesn't mean nothing
well,
when it
the
comes
big thing
to
is just,
technique and everything.
which, welcome to part 2, by the way. Since we're just going straight into it,
Yeah.
as you know, as we different clothes, this and that, we have a life.
Yeah.
We have time constraints.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Basketball coach.
yeah. So we will
That was
pick
good
up.
basketball
We will
coach.
pick up with the everything that we were on before, but this gets us to something that I did want to talk about in a gentle way to get into it. Is that I just want to have a facility where I'm gonna learn to get better.
Yeah.
Defensively, offensively better, because this is ironic. Since we filmed last or recorded last, me and Naomi watched this documentary called American Nightmare or something,
Okay.
and it's on Netflix. It was 3 episodes.
From WWE.
No.
His name is American Nightmare. You know Dusty Rhodes, Goldust? That was his dad, and he was American Dream. He's American. Ezra Loves. We're watching Royal Rumble next week.
There you go. Hey, it's fun. It's fun. That's awesome. No, but this dude, they got woken up in the middle of the night. This guy and his girlfriend, they got woken up in the middle of the night to a bright light, red laser, and zip tie,
Cartel one?
goggles. This was it was in Vallejo, California.
Okay.
Okay, so they break in. This whole thing happens. He puts goggles on them that are blacked out. He zip tied them, and then he put like headphones on them that's playing music, and then checks their blood pressure, and then sedates them, and then says, "Hey, this was meant for Andrea, his ex-girlfriend, but we're gonna take her anyway." And so takes his girlfriend and says, "Don't call the police. I'm installing a camera out in your living room, and I'll be able to see when you leave." And the guy's like, "Can I have a blanket?" And he's like, "Oh, sorry. Kind of forgot how cold it is in here because we have wetsuits on." It's just like a really weird, well put together thing. So he waits till the morning. Well, this guy, his girlfriend's gone. It's kidnapped. So he's like, and he was also sedated, passed out, after this, it caught up to him. He calls the police. Finally in the morning, he's like, "I have to. I'm not supposed to, but I have to."
And they know he's gonna.
And the police, it would frustrate you. But also you would probably have more understanding. They just immediately go after the boyfriend. We don't believe you. That is so ridiculous. So we're going after you. Well, then he's like, "Fine, I have to get a lawyer then." Because the whole time they have him in there without a lawyer because he's like, "Oh, we're trying to." Well, then finally he lawyers up. Then the girl gets released. I'm kind of summing up and skipping details, this and that. She gets released, and they don't believe her. And pretty soon they labeled them as the hoax, the news. The police department came out and said, "You wasted our resources, this and that." Turns out it was true. This dude had done this multiple times, worked his way up to getting better. Oddly enough about the guy, though, there was multiple times where he did this, but then he was like, had the girl and he was going to do stuff. And she immediately is just like, "No, this has happened to me before. No." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to do this to you again then." And he's like, "I'm so sorry." And then he leaves. Breaks into this person's house in the middle of the night, does this. So this guy's really weird. Okay? All that to say, sum up the story. The point is,
Somebody breaks in your house, you need to be able to do something.
exactly. Because then this guy tries it again at some point, which is what ended up leading him to get caught. But it's in Northern California. And the woman's on the phone and she's like, "My husband's fighting him right now." And guess what? The guy made a mistake. He left his phone there. He got into a fight with the dad because the dad was protecting his daughter. His daughter was 22 years old. But still, I'm just saying it wasn't.
Things I do for my daughter.
Oh,
she's 20 old.
That's why I said to Naomi. I was like, the things that I would. I mean, I'm not the biggest, the strongest, but I would go. I'd turn into a freak. Like, you do what, especially if they're bigger than I am, I have to do something wild. But
yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is, if you would have fought back, maybe.
Yeah.
But you woke up in the middle of the night at 3:30 a.m., you're disoriented. Bright light they had like a floodlight. Yeah.
A lot of people's first instinct is to just go with it. All right, I got to see what's going on. Let me just see what's going on.
Yeah. I don't want that. I don't want that, and I want to be able to. Because this might be kind of a guy thing. Some guys, for sure you, Brendan. I know, because me and Brendan talk about this all the time. Like, after watching that documentary last night, I was laying in bed and I was thinking, I was looking at the door to our room and it was like slightly closed, but not all the way. I could see into the hallway, and I'm like, if I fall asleep and somebody walked by our room, would I wake up?
Oh, heck, I wouldn't wake up.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I hate that. I hate that. Because the nursery's right there, you know. But then, anyway, all that to say, it's one of the reasons why I want to do the BJJ, why I want to learn this stuff, why I want to get better as a man, because I feel like evil is getting... That's kind of a weird statement. Kind of.
It's just more present.
It's more present. Visible. More visible. There's more people, so there's probably more chance of evil.
I think and it goes obviously into the spiritual side, but the things as we are progressing, I mean, just the things that people are willing to do now, I don't know. I mean, people call it mental illness.
Yeah.
I call it other things.
Sure.
You know, but the things people are willing to do, I mean, you just watch since 2020. I mean, the way people are and the way people act towards each other.
Yeah.
And the look in people's eyes is just different.
For sure.
It's different. There's something wrong. So, but what you can't do as a man and his dad is, and a husband is go crazy, trying to figure out, all right, how am I going to do this, man? I got one kid that's literally on the other side of this country. Like, if something were to happen, there's absolutely nothing I can do. And I know that.
Yep.
I have to have that faith, right? There is nothing I can do to get to them.
Yeah.
My other two kids, well, they're stuck on bases. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the other one's with me.
Sure.
Right? And so you can't go nuts about it because, with that, just the anxiety starts to build up. Now we're living in a spirit of fear. Right.
Right.
And we're not called to do that, right? So, like, even for me, different things that I have is, what helps me is my two biggest, not my number one and my number two, defenses. I have two big dogs.
Yeah.
And I don't need them, whether they're mean or not. I just need them to be able to sound the alarm.
Oh, yeah.
They wake me up in the morning. Now I got to say hello to my other friends.
Yeah.
It's coming down the stairs. And now I'm going to do something. Because those
the most terrifying thing. I just imagine Vince coming down the stairs with the night vision on, in his underwear, and just two guns.
All Scarface without the coat.
I could just do that'd be the most terrifying thing.
Most terrifying things, quite frankly, for somebody would be in the dark, just hearing the
yeah. Oh yeah.
Right?
And
just
then
that alone.
Alexa, play
force.
Let the bodies hit the floor.
Yeah.
No, but okay, something you said that really kind of stood out to me was like living in the spirit of fear. And I think so many men are living in the spirit of fear because we don't train.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the knowledge, and we don't have the experience that makes
we watch the news.
And we watch the news. Right, yes, you're feeding the fear, but you're not preparing, and you're not training, and you have no experience. And so it allows you to buy into the fear.
Yeah.
Because I think about myself. All that fear comes from insecurity.
Yeah, there you go.
It comes from the insecurity.
Focus on your inadequacies instead of what your strengths are.
Right. And that's where it's like, like you're talking about Joe Euchre, quiet, calm, all that
confidence, man.
But it's because he's been there. Same with you. You're not the loudest guy in the room, but you're a good time. You're fun. But you're fun, and it's cool, and you talk about, you're loud about Sasquatch and the Nephilim and this stuff like that. But you're not loud.
Exciting,
yeah, but you're not loud like, let me walk in here and everybody sees me, even though you are a prominent figure. You're jacked and you're big. But that's because you've been there. You've seen it. You've proven to yourself. So you know that you don't have to prove it to others.
Listen, the really loud people are the ones that they're really loud and try to be intimidating because it's a way to shut everybody else down, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to challenge me if off the get-go, it's a defense mechanism. Same thing as humor is, same thing as, some women will do that, right?
Yeah.
If they're, if they're not confident, they'll go into a certain attitude to just back everybody off. Men the same way.
Yeah.
Right? I was talking about this at work with a friend of mine today, where there's somebody there that fits the bill that is, a very large person with a very loud voice with a large attitude and then tries to throw the weight around, and it's like we can see through this, bud.
Yeah.
You know, we can,
You're in the wrong place. Most of us.
I mean, because you look at it, the military line of work it's a line of work of pretty much people who either are or believe they're alpha males.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to get a beta picking up a gun and running into a firefight. It's just not gonna.
No.
They're not gonna. They may be in, but they're not going to be picking up that rifle and running into a firefight.
Right. Yeah.
You know. So it's yeah, but
So, but that was kind of the topic because I want to talk about is like from your perspective, what's going on with men right now?
Men have lost their identity. I think.
Let me preface this for people listening. You understand it, but the reason I'm asking, from a guy who is secure, not that we don't have insecurities, but you're secure for the most part. You trust in the Lord. You have a relationship with the Lord. It doesn't mean you're the Abraham of it all, but you know what I mean? You're coming from a spot where you've seen it, you've done it, you've experienced it. You are secure. You don't have anything to prove.
Correct.
So coming from you, it's the guy with, I don't want to say the answers, but in a way, those are the people we do need to look at because, okay, they have a little bit of this figured out. Like me telling you about, I'm thinking about this at night. I'm looking at my doorway and I'm thinking this, and you're like, I have a kid across the country, but I have to have that faith. Like that's the answer to my kid's in the next room and I'm worried. You know what I mean? So it's like you have an answer for that because you've seen it, you've done it, you've experienced it, you've made your way through it. And all these other things. So that's why I wanted to preface the question. So that's why I'm asking you, what's with men these days?
Well, real quick, just to touch on it, there's something else to it, and then I'll get to that.
Sure.
But thinking about, I have seen a lot of stuff, right? But with your kid in the next room, it's not to say that none of this is going to happen and that you don't need to be vigilant and prepare for it.
Sure.
But I also believe that with most men who are willing to put themselves above others, so I would say there's a lot more of us than we think, but who will just react in the moment, right? You may not know the techniques, right?
Right.
But you know how to grab a baseball bat that's next to it.
But I'm gonna try.
And and like signs, swing for the the fence.
Yeah.
And just you're going to, because there's something in a man's mind.
The fight or flight.
Yeah.
In that moment, are you gonna hide or are you gonna step up?
But once you choose to
fight.
Mean? As I know, I sent you that one thing about the guy who just wanted to be left alone.
Yes. Yep.
Right, which is probably
phenomenal.
Because it resonates so much.
Right.
Because all I wanted to do was just be left alone, but you couldn't. You pushed past an edge, and once I hit that edge, because it is true. Once you know that once you do something, life as you know it is different.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is. Somebody breaks into your home and you have to shoot him. Life is different.
Yeah.
On every front.
Yep.
Right. So when you get awoken up to somebody within your home and that goes off, you know right now that you have everything to lose, right? So there is something that just clicks within a man that is just, it's like it doesn't allow you to just stop because they flip that switch, right? That's what I think that's what a majority of men, that what the reaction will be. There's others that, based off of what we're at, because men are told now that masculinity is toxic.
Right.
I don't believe there's a such thing. I believe that there's toxic men.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as masculinity. Masculinity, is extremely essential for a society to survive.
Yeah.
And I think we can look around and say, as that reduces,
we're not surviving.
As masculinity goes away, so does our ability to survive, right? Women say that if women ran the world, there would be no wars. Have you ever worked or seen a workplace with just women? Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, women, if you're listening. However, it's true.
Yeah.
Because the amount of cattiness and fighting that goes in, and it may not start out as physical, but it is cutthroat, right?
Yep. And
with men,
that's always bogus. Yeah. That's why there's the balance. We need to balance each other out. Anyway. Right. Yeah.
So in today's world, men are told that all right, we're created to have certain roles, right? Men have a certain role, women have a certain role.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that one is better than the other.
No.
Right? We have just different roles.
Yep.
But as people, we couldn't accept that through the years because that's wrong, right?
Yep.
Because I guess how some view equality, you know, that's a whole other discussion,
Right. Yeah.
but which I'm not going to get into, right? But men have been told to stop doing what they're doing,
Yeah.
stop protecting, right?
Right.
Stop doing any of this. So as we go further along, right, you look at I think about I'm just like on my dad's side of the family. They immigrated here. I want to say it was my great grandfather did, and they came from Germany to farmland. Right, and it was rough.
Yeah.
Right now, my grandpa, he's born and grown up on, in a farm through the Depression.
Yeah.
Right, that was not easy on any of that family. So he's a very hardened man.
Yeah.
Right, Grandpa didn't hug. Grandpa shook hands. Right, you tried to hug Grandpa, he looked at you like you were crazy. Darn city kids, right?
Right. Yep.
What are you doing? But because of that hard-nosed mentality, my dad and his brothers and his sisters, they all grew up a completely different way, hard-nosed. Well, as the generations go, things just get softer, right? Because you're removed. That's the other problem with men is if we have not truly faced diversity or adversity,
Yep.
right? Americans have been spoiled.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Going through Iraq, Afghanistan, Korea, all these other places I've gone to, we are spoiled. Men will talk about this is hard, this is hard. This is not hard.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the easiest life you can imagine here compared to what everybody else is going through. They don't have to fight for anything.
Right.
And yet we're taught not to fight for anything, right?
Right.
Bullying, right? The whole bullying, not in our school campaign was the biggest joke to me because it happens. It has always happened, and it will always happen.
And your campaign didn't change anything.
Campaigning, yes. Well, we're bringing attention. Okay, with what? If you're teaching young men, if they fight back, they're destroyed.
Yeah.
Right? Do not fight back. That bully comes at him physically. That kid fights back. That kid is usually going to get a worse punishment than the bully.
Yeah.
Right? What is you are raising generations of victims who do nothing. They can't defend themselves. They can't fend for themselves. They call for help. I think that's by design.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's
why this is
class.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think that's why men are the way they are, because it has been beaten into so many men's heads that you don't fight back. Why don't you call the police? Are you serious, man? This dude's all over me. Or, he's in my room.
Yeah.
Hold on, dude. Hold on a second. I need to call 911. Are you, what world do you live in?
Yeah.
Right? That is not my first thing is eliminate the threat, and then I'll call the cops.
Yeah.
Right? But that's my first
microphone didn't work at that part.
Eliminate the threat.
Yeah.
I don't care, whether if my wife can call on and get on the phone and call 911 while I'm taking that.
If there's a bystander that can do this, sweet. You do this.
And then you look at the same thing. Look what happens on the streets of America. Somebody is getting beat up, right? If you jump in to help, right? And it starts to get physical, and everybody tries to stop you from jumping in to help out, or they bust out their phones, right?
Right.
There's so much with it that it's like somebody provokes something, and then you finally retaliate. Everybody tries to stop you and tell you you're wrong. You shouldn't have done it. Well, maybe the guy provoking it,
right?
But what I'm saying is we've created a class of people who are afraid to fight back.
Yeah. For
and
sure.
That's why men are the way they are, because they've been told from day one, don't fight back.
Yeah.
Right? Don't ever take the first punch. Well, if this dude's threatening me, why do I have to wait till he knocks me out? Like Mike Tyson, right? Well, not like I would ever, just whatever, dude, I'm running, right? But I have to wait till a guy like that slugs me in the face before I do anything.
Right.
Well, what if that gets me just right and I'm out cold? Now I can do nothing.
That's Chael Sonnen. Do you know who that is? He used to be a UFC fighter. He talks about that, and he says it, because he wrestled. He was a big time wrestler, and then he went to the UFC and he did pretty well. He's undefeated. He's lost a few times, but he has this. The bad guy is his role. He played the heel for his whole career, but it's all fun. But he talks about if somebody steps to me, and I can tell I'm a fool if I let them do anything. He's like, no, I'm going to shoot. I'm going to shoot. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do what I need to do.
How much damage do I have to allow them to do to me before I feel before somebody else decides it's
That
okay?
it's okay.
Come on, man.
That's the I'm not trying to sit here and say like, yeah, shoot everybody. But my whole thing with this is when we start to see cases like lawsuits against people who shoot an intruder.
Yeah.
Someone breaks into your house, you defend your family in the middle of the night, you defend it, and you shoot them, and then you get sued by the family. I understand.
Again, it's creating a class of people who are not.
I understand you don't want to believe that your son, your brother, your husband, your cousin, your uncle, whatever, and I keep picking a guy, but typically it's a dude, but is a terrible person. Or let's just say they made a mistake, but that mistake is, it's this mistake.
Mistakes that story.
Why do you
fire, don't they?
Exactly, like, why do we think that this is okay to just let go? Because then we do create a world of lawlessness. Like, as soon as I know that I can get away with something, I'm gonna keep doing it. That's just the human. That's the human nature.
Now, there's something to it though. When I think the real strength is being able to, and granted, every situation, sometimes it goes straight to that level where you got to pull out the weapon and use it.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
But I think there's a lot of it too. As men, the more confident you are, and it really depends where you're at. Again, 2 a.m. in my home, there's no time for words.
No.
There's really not. But on the street or something else, there is power in being able to be confident enough to de-escalate things.
Oh, sure.
Get to that takes a whole new level of being able to really to dig into a different place
for sure
and talk somebody down.
Right. Well, because that's where you get into that discussion like we were having, is the loudest guy in the room. Because what has happened, it's been so many years now, like what you're talking about, where it's been beaten into men to not be men, essentially. That's almost happened so much now that it's like men are born that way. Where it's almost like those men that's been beaten into them are starting to raise kids.
Yeah.
And they're raising them in that manner because they've been brainwashed to not be who they're supposed to be. So now we're getting like a full-blown generation.
When you look at it, it's like they're trying to get it where the roles are actually shifting between men and women.
Yeah.
And now women have become the more aggressive ones, and
women have become men and men have become women, literally.
Somewhat, but also just roles, and how it's perceived in the home. And this isn't about men rule with an iron fist, but you can look at it I don't even know if I want to delve there, but strong households have a strong father figure, a strong husband, not some weak, not meek, not some weak little, husband, some man, who's just yes dear to everything. It's just like there has to be. I mean, it's just that's why, I do stand firm on the Bible and the morality of the Bible and the instruction of the Bible, because there is a fine dance and balance that happens between a husband and wife, a man and a woman, that it is the husband is the head of the household, but he submits to his wife as she submits to him. And in his decision making, he's doing this to sacrifice for his family, and she submits to that, trusting that that's what he's doing. Right. And that's where both people can get off kilters, because the husband can make a decision that's selfish. And if he does that one time, well, then a decision in the future that he makes, the wife is not going to submit to that because she doesn't trust that he's actually doing it for the betterment of this. And then we get this cycle that happens. But it is instructed that way. And I think anytime that you do step out, thankful for God's grace that it doesn't always happen. But a lot of times when we step outside of that covering of like, this is how God designed it, and when we live outside of that, like actively outside of that, okay with being outside of it, not just, oh, I'm stumbling, I need to get back to this. Yeah. That sanctification process, that's how I'm talking about. I'm talking about just actively living the wrong way. Yeah. I mean, that's outside of God's covering.
We're open for the enemy. We're open for the flaming arrows. We're open for the attacks. We're open to be deceived by whoever is doing the deceiving. We don't have to.
So something else to think about of why have men become the way they are is because men have failed. Men have failed as fathers.
Yeah,
Right?
fatherlessness.
It's disgusting at how many young men and women are growing up without fathers.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
So if there is not a strong man in the home to teach his daughter how to be loved by a man, right?
Sure. Yep.
By watching how mom and dad interact.
Yes.
Right? And having that protection and, just the love of a father. And then the son learning from the strong father on how to be a strong man.
Yep.
Right now we have either, as you said before, you have the weak father trying to pass along to the weak son.
Yep.
Or you have mom trying to teach the son how to be a man.
Yeah.
A mom cannot teach. She can teach him what he thinks it is, what her view and her version of a man is.
Yeah.
But she cannot teach him what she doesn't. I mean, men, we're not complicated, but we just got a whole lot of different stuff that we look at, and what we're doing with, thinking, with, I don't know. It's just
whatever your measure of success is, they do have a measure of success that they use in studies for families. And obviously a well-constructed family that has both parents married in the home, raising their kids, most successful kids. It is. It's just statistically speaking, the most successful kids. Then when you look at single parent households, single mom ranks last. Single dad, they say the kids will be more successful than the single moms raising their kids. And I'm not, shout out to the single moms. You have to, because some guy was an idiot. I'm just going to try to be as nice as possible.
Go with the
right.
We're not talking about the portion that, fathers died.
Oh, no.
That's
that's we're talking about dads that just leave.
Yeah.
Or
just not engaged at all.
Not engaged at all. They could even be in the home and not engaged. I mean, that does happen. But statistically speaking, if the dad is in the home, most of the time there's successful. Of course. There's all these outliers. If we don't speak of generalities, we're going to be here all night. But that's the whole thing is that, yeah, you're right. It's fatherlessness. And that's why, it's modeled right after our relationship with God. The Father. Like, it's all there. And that's why, like, people will look at it and be like, how can you believe in God? How can you do this? Look at our entire world and life and how much is modeled after this. And you read this book that was written forever ago and you want to say that man combined it together. Whatever you want to say, how come it is right? How come it's right? It keeps proving itself. And I'm, yeah, anyway. But yeah, it's meant science. Well, now we could get into a really good, interesting conversation. I don't know if we want to dive into that one right away. But because when you talk about science and the Bible, I think science can prove the Bible more often than not. And there's some people, I'm not here to say what theology you should have. I'm just saying when it comes to things that are not of salvation base.
Okay.
Salvation base is the gospel. Jesus came. Gospel base. Sin entered the world through Adam and Eve. Old Testament. Jesus came, sacrificed for all. We accept him. That is how we get to heaven. There is no other way. Holy Spirit comes, and now we're living our life until Jesus returns. That gospel message. I am not going to argue that theology. That is what I believe. Period.
I agree.
Now, when you get into creation, I believe God created the heavens and the earth. I believe that he created it like it says in Scripture. Now, there's an interesting theory called the pre-Adamite theory. No. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's wrong. I don't know if it's right.
I wasn't there.
I wasn't there.
I remember you asked Joe, where were you?
I wasn't there. I was not there. And I'm not going to say it's wrong, and I'm not going to say it's right. I'm going to say that it's very intriguing, and it's very interesting, and I kind of find it fun to dive into. But getting into the conversation then, you find this stuff very appealing.
I do.
you've gotten into this for a while.
I would say 2020. I mean,
Not even just pre-Adamite theory. Let me, everything.
I believe it's
Anything,
crazy stuff.
yeah, supernatural stuff, supernatural beings, mythological creatures. I'll put quotes around it.
Yeah, we'll just go cryptids.
Cryptids. There we go. Cryptids. All that different stuff. Because I don't know, and this is where you get to just tell me what you think, but like a lot of cryptids, I believe, exist. But I think it is on the basis of the fallen angels, the Nephilim, kind of not necessarily the Nephilim themselves, but that route. Like, I think they exist, and this is why I think they exist, because there is some scriptural foundations of certain things and clues that we have and all that different stuff, as well as some of it I think are spiritual things that people just deny.
Funny thing, I found out today, King James?
Mm-hmm.
He wrote a book on demonology where he talked about werewolves, witches, elves. Crazy. I was like, I mean, this is stuff that,
Yeah. There's a lot of people, there might be a lot of people that are against King James, but
I'm just saying.
Just like Enoch. The book of Enoch is not included in the Bible, but is a historical book, and I encourage you to read it. Because Enoch was a real person, and he's one of 2 people who never experienced death. Right. Why? Well, maybe there's something about it. So let's just, let's calm down on that. But
so the one thing I've realized is I love to talk about. I do. To me, it's extremely interesting to think about where I know we have to be very careful of it becoming that obsession, right? Because we don't know any of that stuff outside of it. Anybody that claims they know what if this is really true, gap theory, if that was really true,
right?
Some people obsess over, I have to know. Well, we have to be very careful, because that's kind of delving into the tree of knowledge, right?
Right.
Where we now are so obsessed with, I have to know everything. Why do we have to know it? Sometimes we have to be content with, I don't know what the answers are, but I enjoy looking into it. And biggest thing for my start growing up, the house that we lived in, we had a little bit of paranormal activity.
Yeah.
Right? From things turning on, just to seeing apparitions in the home. There was just a lot going on. Even not too recently, I want to say we moved back from Alaska in 2013. My mother-in-law saw an apparition in the backyard. Right, so there's a lot of stuff. Nothing ever malevolent, right?
Sure.
Except for one day, it just freaked me and my brother the heck out. Where we were downstairs playing, I don't know, it was G.I. Joe's, Legos, or something. I think I was maybe 11, and we both stopped and looked at each other because we had this feeling like somebody was standing right there without saying a word. We just looked at each other and we booked it upstairs.
Yeah.
Right. My dad, one time we had a wood stove. And he, would sit there, and he drove truck, or well, still does. But at the end of the day, calming down, sit down there, have a cigarette, drink a beer, and then he put out the fire. Was walking upstairs, and he got to the top of the steps. He heard from downstairs, nobody down there, saying, "Did he finally leave?" Yes. And my dad was just like, screw you guys.
This is my house.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Things like that. Waking up to an apparition standing in. So needless to say, there was a lot of stuff. And
right.
then when you try and tell people about it, and the way you get reacted to, you're crazy. You're making this stuff up.
Yeah. Blah,
blah, blah. Priest telling my mom there's no such thing. And she's like, well, what? Then you can come over to our house and you can find out for yourself.
Right.
Right. So not getting any answers from anywhere, including the church. Right.
Right.
So just growing up with a lot of I don't know, it was just, there's this disconnect of I'm living and dealing with supernatural stuff, but everybody's telling me that it's fake and it's not real.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to think. That's why I think one of the things that it was very difficult for me to accept just the concept of Jesus, because it's like, how more supernatural does this get?
Right.
Where the Holy Spirit will impregnate a virgin, who carries him, gives birth. He lives this perfect life, which is impossible to do for any human, right?
Right.
perfect sinless life is, he, after his crucifixion, he descends down the hell, grabs the keys of Hades, comes and he's now on earth for 40 days, right? Wasn't that how long he was on earth? And then right back up to heaven, right? Everything's supernatural.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
He's supposed to be dead, and he's, boom, still, he's got the holes in it. That's all is supernatural stuff, which means it's more than natural. I'm not saying that it's, it's fake, that it's it's fantasy, it's supernatural. It's just, it's the natural, and it's a way above and beyond that, right?
Right.
And, so you're telling me that everything I'm going to experience is fake, but you're telling me I have to accept this. It it just doesn't jive.
Doesn't
I
jive.
can't have one without the other.
100%. Yep.
And I'll say it was a very, very long time. It wasn't until we moved back here that I really started to accept that, right?
Yeah.
And see where the two worlds, where they meet.
They exist in the same place, but on, I guess, in the way that it could be explained as different planes.
Yeah.
There's the supernatural and there's the physical. And, I think you can't, to go along with that, I do think there's a lack of, I don't want to say that it's, there's a way to obsess over things that's not good. Like from the church perspective, like as a pastor, like it's not your job to just only talk about cryptids, these things, the pre-Adamite theory, Nephilim, demons, all that stuff. But you can't leave it out either because it's part of the word. And so you have to be able to know these things and you have to be able to talk about these things because you can't have, like what you're saying, you can't have angels without demons. Yeah. You can't have angels without fallen angels. Yeah. You can't have Noah without Nephilim.
Yep.
You can't do this stuff because it exists.
Nephilim, what the heck they even are,
yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah. Like for sure.
People they can't accept that there's not just what's in front of us.
Right. And that's the thing. So I want to say real quick, but it might not be the quickest, but you'll vibe with this. This is my whole thought process behind this. Now, disclaimer, people saying the Bible verse that says don't waste your time with conspiracies and theories and this and that and this and that, whatever. We're merely having some fun conversation, but also I think there's an important conversation to be had around this. Because if, we sit here and we could talk about Sasquatch, Dogman, Mothman, and you would think conspiracy theories, why wasting your time? The Bible says not to do this. Well, here's the deal. The Bible says and talks about the supernatural, demonic spirits, and so on and so forth. And you kind of cover one with the other. And if you're saying that demonic and supernatural things are a conspiracy theory, then you might need to go look at scripture, not us.
Yeah.
Just want that clear. Now, getting to a conspiracy theory is when we look at America and the world that we live in, and especially Hollywood and how it created, and all these demonic things that happen in Hollywood. Yeah. And, between consuming blood, killing babies, and I'm not just talking about abortion, eating flesh, all this different stuff. That is not just conspiracy.
No, I'm told. Well, people swear that. No, that doesn't exist.
They tried to have a actor recently come out and talk about how he's a cannibal, and it got backlash, obviously. And I think they did that to test the waters. His name is Armie Hammer. I know it sounds ridiculous, but he's an actor, and he admitted to consuming flesh, and it got some backlash. So anyway, beside the point, all this stuff.
No-name guy they bring out.
He wasn't just known. He was a decent actor, and he was in some bigger movies. You would probably may recognize his face, maybe. He's a tall dude and he's pretty jacked. But he didn't have a job for a little while because of that. But I think it's also because maybe he came out and the rest of Hollywood was like, we don't tell our secrets. Anyway, that's a conspiracy. But he did come out and talk about this, looked down upon. The point being that Hollywood and the movies that it creates and so on creates these fictions, creates these fantasies so that we watch it and it's called that. Yep. So that way when we hear somebody else talk about it, we're like, that's fiction, that's fantasy. So that way it desensitizes us. because Hollywood, government officials, a lot of these evil things.
Well, there's 3
are
other
being
agencies that are actually involved in the filmmaking.
yes,
Consultants.
correct.
Maybe not believe that.
Right, but it's true.
Operation Mockingbird, look it up.
Yeah. So there's now this is where it gets a little bit wild, and a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy, but it is what it is. Antarctica is the center of it all, I think, because there was an article maybe 2 years ago where they talked about that there might be that the matter, they were doing a study of Earth and the way matter and atoms were moving, and I'm probably using the wrong terminology, that were moving, and they were like, there's like a portal that could be opening to a parallel universe in Antarctica. They said that because when you look at the mass and the way it moves like a black hole, kind of, they were able to study where these things were happening. Now, why does every president go visit Antarctica? Why has it never been conquered?
There's
why
a
is
treaty. Do you know about the treaty?
Yeah, all that stuff.
Heard of Admiral Byrd?
Right.
You ever heard of
all this stuff I have. I think. I don't know a ton about him, but I've heard the name.
On there came back saying some crazy stuff. Buzz Aldrin came back and had a heart attack.
Yeah.
While he was there talking about how we're doomed and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, bear with me. Don't turn off the podcast yet. Yep, don't turn off the podcast yet because I'm making a point here that I believe this is very true, and this is why it ties into Christianity and why it, not necessarily the theory is important to talk about, but why supernatural stuff is important to talk about, is because I think there are portals to another dimension. I do think that there is extraterrestrials that in fact are demonic forces, that are demonic beings and principalities of ranking in the demonic army, so to speak, for lack of a better term, that our leadership, world leadership, gets information from.
Yeah.
It's where they get some leadership calls from.
That's the claim for the Nazis and how their technology blew past everybody in the world because it was...
There's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun because that happened in the Old Testament. Look at the Old Testament. Look at the things surrounding Noah. What was happening was there was fallen angels that were cast onto earth, and those fallen angels were horn dogs.
Fornicating.
Yeah, they were fornicating with beings. You know, what? That's what they were doing. And they would go to men and they would say, hey, we want to sleep with your daughters. We will give you this. And it was knowledge, it was advancements, it was things like that they would trade for sleeping with their daughters. Well, pretty soon humans weren't enough, and that's why then animals were then bred with, and genealogies were crossed. That's why in Scripture when it says Noah was blameless or perfect, it's not talking about sinless. No, he was a drunkard, right? I believe
his kids weren't exactly all that great either.
Exactly. It was that he had the purest genealogy that were not overlapping with animals and other things. And that's why you see all these...
And God brought the animals to him. He didn't go find them. He said he brought the animals to him.
Because he's going to bring the non-corrupted ones. Correct. And you also look at then why Egypt and... other mythologies, other religions, and so on and so forth. Not all religions, but other religions have a sphinx. Mm-hmm. Half person, half this. Half cat, half this. That's why in Greek mythology, why is there a bull and a human? These things, werewolves, vampires,
have you ever seen
mermaids.
The St. Christopher?
No.
It's a dog man, dude.
Yeah. It's
a dude with a dog's head. That's St. Christopher. Everybody wears the St. Christopher medal, right?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, I didn't know that, though.
Yeah. Interesting.
But see, so this all stemmed from Old Testament days, fallen angels, and that's how Nephilim were created and so on and so forth. So this all leading to impact, and the Antarctica thing is a conspiracy theory. But the rest of this is not a conspiracy theory as far as demonic influence in our leadership, and why then we start to see this stuff showing up in movies is because it desensitizes us to the next reveal. The next reveal.
Think of The Exorcist.
Yeah.
You cannot... If you've ever seen somebody on the street you can tell they've got some demons.
Yeah.
They're struggling with some demons.
Yep.
Their head's not spinning around, split pea soup flying out of their mouths, is it? But that's what the movie depicted.
Right. Yep.
Are there cases like that? I don't know. I've never seen it. And, man, right? God has not called me on that particular, mission, but...
What mission?
To cast out the split piece.
We're all.
He hasn't told me to go to that person. I'm not saying that 10 years or 2 months down the road, because it's something I want to talk about afterwards. I wouldn't, that's not something we do. Yes, Jesus said that we would be doing, we'd be casting out demons. Yep. Even more so than him, yet we're doing nothing.
Yeah. Because the enemy's winning by saying there's no supernatural.
Right. So you have these movies, they come out right so we'll use Exorcist. So you talk about demons and somebody looks at somebody as like, no, they're mentally ill, because they don't see that depiction that Hollywood has over all of these demons. Look at every horror movie and what that has. A demon does not, need to... What I've learned, and like I said, on the first part, is opening these doors. One of the movies that I saw recently is Nefarious.
Oh, yeah. That was like a Christian-made...
Man, I like
almost like a movie Screwtape Letters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but he had said this, and it's something that I knew a long time ago, is all it takes is opening, it's an agreement early on, right? Yeah. Ouija boards, things like that. 100%. Drunkenness, fornication, something that we look at, the world says it's not that bad, but it's a sin, right? Yep. We've opened that up and we haven't repented. Yep. Right? And then we don't close it off. We continue to do things, and then human nature, it never stays as that. It starts to continue to grow. Yeah. Right? Yep. And now it's going to grow until it's something that we can't control, right? Yeah. And what I've seen is a lot of that, somebody who starts out smoking a joint, next thing you know, I'm seeing them on the streets of San Francisco looking like it's the zombie apocalypse, right? Yep. So, and it's not an overnight thing like it happened with, like the movie depicts that this just severe thing was just, man, it hit her all of a sudden. Yeah. Can it happen like that, dude? Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm not saying it doesn't. I've seen some stuff. Yeah. But I'm saying a lot of the things that we deal with that we can say, man, that's demonic. The world is saying, no, it's not. Yeah. Right? Because it's taken all that and made it so fantastical, right? Mm-hmm. And we'll take one of my favorite things is even, Sasquatch cryptids, right? Yep. I enjoy it because, well, first off, God created angels, did he not? Yeah. He created people. Are we so arrogant to say, other than people, angels, animals, and seaborn life, he created nothing else? We don't know, right? Yeah. So, and that's not, does it matter? To me, it doesn't matter, right? Right. It's not something I need to get involved. But what I'm saying is that there are things out there that we just cannot explain. Yeah, for sure. We're not going to, right? We're, lean on it our own understanding. We're not going to know everything that's going on. Yeah. We just have to roll with it. It's just fun. But I'm saying if 10,000 people come out at different times and claim an experience, you cannot tell me all 10,000 people are lying. Right. That's like... And that's even beyond that with the number of reports. Yep. To include UFOs. Yeah. Right? Every single person who ever saw one saw a weather balloon? Or they saw this? Come on, not every single person can be lying. Right. I have the same qualm with cessationists that believe that the Holy Spirit and the giftings and all that stuff is not for today. It was for then. I have the same problem with that because I'm like, so you're telling me what I've experienced, what I've done, what I've seen happen, what I've seen done. It's all fake? Yeah. Or better yet, it's demonic? Because that's what some people will say, is that it's demonic. And blaspheming the Holy Spirit, isn't it? I mean, I'm not going to go as far as maybe some of the demon slayers in like Isaiah Zaldivar and some of those guys that say like cessationist is demonic. Very well could be. I'm just not necessarily like ready to just say that. But you can't tell me that what I'm experiencing in the supernatural isn't real. Just like people that say, well, demons, I don't know about all that. Dude, in this very office, 2 weeks before I took over the internship, however, 12 years ago, we had a demonic possessed person in here lifting 4 college-aged guys off the ground. And it was, it was a small person. Yeah. So like it's and that's not to like make it some big sensation. It's not to make it some big movie thing. It's just these are real things. And the problem with
neutering the enemy is one, you're going to get hit by punches you don't see.
Yeah.
You're going to struggle with things that you refuse to find the answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying, I don't believe in the common cold, but you're walking around with a stuffy nose and a cough and this and that, and you're never getting better. But no, I don't believe in that. So that's not, no, it is what it is. And when you do that, guess what? If you don't believe in the cold, you're not going to believe in the medicine. And so when you neuter the enemy, you're neutering God. Because if you don't believe in this supernatural, you're not believing in this supernatural.
Yeah.
Just like you said, the Lord said, we're going to do more than even I, or more than even him, however that should be worded, from the first person of, anyway. But we're not doing that stuff. A lot of people aren't.
No.
It's because they don't believe in any of it. They read it. They don't believe it. They don't believe that there's demons. They don't believe that there's an enemy. They don't believe in this. Yet, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And so that's why we don't see that, is because there's just this whole blindness to supernatural anything.
Interesting. I was reading Acts, and I think it's in, I don't know if it was 3 or 4, but they're talking about the man who was outside the synagogue, couldn't come in because he was crippled, right? And,
Yes.
And they healed him, right? And the reason people believed him is because he was like 40 years old, right? Meaning that they knew for all 40 years that this guy was a cripple.
Right.
And now he could walk. That's why they believed him. Had they not, they would have also questioned.
Sure.
You know.
Oh, for sure.
And it's incredible.
It's going to be a common problem.
Yeah.
But then the more years, just like as an older...
And we've gotten away from Jesus,
and
from the time of him.
Worldly answers we have for everything.
Which I'm not clowning science, but we've
There's some
it has gone to explain everything, and you can't explain everything.
Well, and that's my problem with science, is when we look at science as the truth and not an observation of the truth. Right?
Observation of who's getting paid to provide the truth.
It is. It's who's getting paid to provide the truth, for sure. That's what it's turned into. But that's where I say, like I said, talked about Noah, when the fallen angels exchanged knowledge for this. That's where science began.
Well, there's a lot of people who don't even believe what you just said.
Right.
Even
though it's documented.
But they'll go into, it's the sons of Seth. Right? The bloodline of him.
Yeah.
Or that's just not what it is. And you're just like, I'm like, how are we reading? I was like, I don't know.
Are we reading the same thing?
Right. Granted, how I grew up and what I was exposed to.
Oh, for sure.
In my mind.
Yeah.
To things that, which, man, going back to Afghanistan, had I known or really been looking into this stuff, the questions that I would have asked.
Afghanistan was which tour?
My second.
Second one, which we ended talking about.
Yeah.
How many more tours were after that again?
That was the only one. Or
that was the last one.
Yeah, because after that, surely, which crazy enough, like I ended up with that one, and then years later, my son goes to fight the same stinking war that I was in, and
that's wild.
And then the collapse of it, which brought out a whole lot of different emotions, none of them good.
Sure. Yep. Understandable,
but
when you're that connected to it.
So
you were in it.
Yeah.
And you fought it so that your kids didn't have to.
Yeah. Failed at that, huh?
I wouldn't say you did. I wouldn't say that you did.
Yeah, funny. Civil War fathers and Revolutionary War fathers and sons fought in the same war at the same time. This one, we just fought like 10 years apart, dude.
That's wild.
But one of the things I wish I had known, and I had this line of thinking, because there's a lot of stuff that I would have talked to our interpreters about in Afghanistan, because there's a lot of stuff. Westerners don't believe in squat.
Yeah.
Everywhere else in the world, they actually believe in stuff, right?
Yes.
Afghanistan. So there's a Facebook group with friends of mine, soldiers that I was in Afghanistan with, and I just put out there one time, I was like, hey guys, did anybody ever talk to any of the interpreters or locals about any weird stuff while they were there?
Yeah.
The first response was, yeah, I had one guy talking to me about giants. And I was like, dude, that's what I'm looking for. Right? The mountains there.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you, when I tell people who, you can maybe watch a movie, look at pictures. To give you a picture idea what Afghanistan looks like, it's when Jesus walked the earth. That's what it's like.
Yep.
Probably the same mud huts there too. That's
quality.
what it had to have looked like until we Americans get involved in it. right?
Yeah.
But that's what it had to look like. There's so much supernatural there. There's mountains. You've got a whole lot of different spirits that have names, right?
Oh, for sure.
And there's
We're a
different
godless
tales.
country. They're a godful country, just the wrong.
Yeah,
Just
that's
the wrong.
that's the
Yeah.
thing, right? So there's tales of giants, and in at nighttime the villages will pull their animals in because the giants will come and they will take their animals. They will leave offerings to the giants so that they leave their livestock alone.
There's a
Right?
lot of
And
movie.
that's true stuff that they talk about. All
Yeah.
these people, again, are all of these people lying? Is all of this just fairy tale and
Myth.
myth? Yes, right?
Right.
Everybody's like, that's myth. Like,
Well, and there's a lot of. I shouldn't touch that. There's a lot of movie depictions, TV show depictions, video game depictions that Middle East with their cave systems is where a lot of like vampire type creatures exist in the depths of whatever. And it has to do with, I mean, when you think about the Middle East, how much mysticism in Asia, the Middle East, and so on, that side, that's why I kind of this isn't a conspiracy theory, it's just my thought on this, is like when you have a missionary go to a country, and I've seen it so many times, they go somewhere and their revival services are unbelievable. They're unbelievable. People getting healed, baptized in the Spirit, all this different stuff it's going on just constantly. They're getting saved.
The whole village gets saved.
Yeah, it's like it's just an incredible thing. And then you look at here and how dead things are, and that was like I said, it's because we're godless. There's a lack of spirituality. There's this new age stuff, but new age stuff is all about yourself. It's not about there is a being. Whereas Eastern mysticism, Middle East, Asia, all over there, they are very spiritual.
Yeah.
But they're believing all the wrong things. So it's not crazy for them to then see God and Jesus and be like, I can believe in that and all the supernatural with it. And that's why we see
it for what it is.
Right.
It is,
Yeah. So, I mean, they're able to like, oh, I can get on board with this. What's all the spiritual stuff? Whereas like in America, if somebody gets saved, what's all the physical stuff? What do I have to do? What do I have to do? What do I have to do? Oh, what do I have to believe?
Yeah.
What do I have to believe in? And then it's different. So because they have all these experiences and all these beliefs and stuff, it's almost easier for them to then, I shouldn't say easier to get converted, but it's easier once they get converted to experience all that God has.
Africa.
Oh, Africa's crazy.
Yeah.
In the way that they can get saved, in the way that their spiritualities, but it's because the combination of war with spirituality, which I mean, Middle East has that as well. I mean, there's other places that have that, but in Africa, I'm not totally knowledgeable on it, but I know, I mean, it's war torn. Like there's a lot of sad miserableness to a lot of areas in Africa. Then there's also some areas that I've heard are very advanced and populated and so on. But yeah, it's just any place that has this super high level of spirituality, it's easier for them to, once they get converted, to have all that God has for them because they don't deny.
Yeah.
They don't deny that there's a spiritual realm.
And I think Hollywood has done so much of it because the level of, I'll just ask, because of all the movies and everything, what do you think the average person would need to see or experience to actually start believing in something other than themselves, right? Start believing that you know what I mean?
A full on, it would have to be negative. It would have to be negative. It couldn't be a positive thing. I don't think it could be. Or it would have to be a positive at the end of a negative. Okay. Right? Like the near death but saved experience. I think that can get through, but most likely it would have to be like a full-fledged, and I'm not even joking, it'd have to be a full-fledged like zombie apocalypse. Then they'd be like, what?
But somehow you have to still like, would they believe it?
Well, right. I'm just saying, like, I guess that doesn't necessarily get them to believe in God. It doesn't have to believe. I'm not going to say that necessarily will push them to believe in God, but it'll make them believe in something.
Yeah.
Aliens, something. It's gonna
go through a supernatural experience, and part of it is, and I have come to realize, sometimes people don't want to acknowledge it or admit it because if they admit that, then this is true, then some other things then have to be true.
Right.
And now the things that they have thought or maybe possibly made their identity of their whole lives is now shattered.
Right.
And that is a very difficult thing for people to accept.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
but the depths because of the entertainment industry. And then if something were to present itself in the air, you'd have to ask yourself, is that a UFO? Is that a hologram? Right? I mean, you in Vegas now, you have big holograms coming out of the sky, reaching their arms down and darn near touching the street level. I mean, they have created so much doubt that it's, I'll watch a clip of, something, and there's a clip of Bigfoot, right? I believe in Squatch,
Yeah.
and I see a photo, and I was like, I don't know if that's real,
Yeah.
because there has been so many fakes,
Right. Of course.
that now it's like, man, I don't want to say that's real, because then you're going, oh, that's fake, because you have no life, right?
Right.
You want to fake Sasquatch videos. But we have faked, or you know what I mean? They have done that to us so many times, that you're like, I don't know. And then even again with what I believe, sometimes it does sound so fantastical that I'm like, I don't know if I believe this person's story.
Right.
Right?
For sure.
It's so fantastical. Yet again, people didn't believe what I said.
Right.
When in mine, I don't think mine was near as fantastical as what this person was.
For sure.
So who am I to sit here and tell you I don't believe that person?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I've heard some stories of different installations and the stuff like soldiers dragged into the bushes by dogmen.
Yeah.
Right? And other people, no, that's not real. So the squad made it up?
Yeah.
Like, you understand the culture of it. There's
Right.
things you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we've diluted,
That's the
polluted it so much.
Well, yeah, that's the problem is there are fake things. There are false things. There are fake things. Like not everything that is cryptid is real, but there are plenty of things that are real or have substantial evidence to believe that either once existed or still do. You know what I mean? Like I was talking about when they procreated with animals, how many human animal hybrids still exist. Maybe they don't still exist, but they did. Or
maybe centaurs are real, right? I mean, half man, half horse.
well,
I don't know.
well, there's just several things that are supernatural and so on that, and when I said zombie apocalypse, I don't necessarily mean that I believe a zombie apocalypse will happen. I'm just saying it would have to be something of that caliber.
It's already there, but go ahead.
Well, I thought there was once upon a time.
Florida, the people eating the bath salts and eating people's faces off.
Yes. So I thought for a long time that they were prepping us for that because that happened so much. They were starting to desensitize us to a zombie apocalypse. I thought, and the fact that the CDC on their website has a zombie apocalypse guide.
And you gotta wonder if
the CDC.
You gotta wonder if they're
they gotta be at that point. At that point, they have to be. There's no way that's on there with pages of information.
Or do you hide truth within that, right? So like, what is it, Idaho? Or their parks department has something for Sasquatch, and I don't know, but if you come out about it and you make it, now it's almost, is it a mocking thing?
Right. Yeah.
You believe in that? Oh, really?
Right.
Oh,
well, and is there, it's
Sasquatch.
a money grab thing, right? Is there a money grab thing to this? Because you look at like,
grifting as well.
Well, yeah, because then you look at some of these Sasquatch shows. They're doing this for money.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing this for money. If all you cared about was,
yeah,
or we'll tease with how many somebody screaming off in the woods and that's him, whatever.
Some of those are creepy.
Some of it, yes, 100%. I do believe in.
Have you ever listened to the Sierra sounds?
I don't think so.
There's a dude named Ron Moorhead. Him and some of his buddies would go up every year hunting in the Sierra Nevada mountains in Cali, and they didn't tell anybody, but took horses out there because of just how rugged and everything. They built this shelter within these trees, and they barricaded themselves inside because of nighttime, and they recorded the sounds, And dude, it will make your skin crawl.
Ugh.
Right?
There are definitely some.
Like,
There are
man,
definitely
this was
some.
in the 70s.
Yeah, there are definitely some animals that make some weird sounds, like bobcats, things like that. But then there's some sounds that we don't know what made that sound.
Check these out.
Yeah,
I'm telling
for
you,
sure.
It'll make your skin crawl. You're
Yeah.
like, oh my god.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like people think about
But you're right, there are-
animals. Oh, for sure. But I'm not saying it's fake. But like there's certain things that people will hear in the woods and be like, "What?" That's why you have to know certain things in order to know more. That was really profound. You have to know things to know more. But there's certain things that people believe in. Snakes. I don't think there's a single person on earth that would deny a snake exists.
Correct.
But then
Even if they've never seen them.
Even if they've never seen them. They've seen videos. Well, it could be doctored. No. Okay. When you look at the snakes that exist in the Amazon, more specifically,
The anaconda?
the anacondas.
Yeah.
The guy that was on, I think he was on Joe Rogan, and he brought the biggest anaconda that he's ever got, and it bit him. The head on that thing, like, huge, mouth wide open. And he said he's had experiences where he's grabbed him, and I mean, it's like, and you're in deep water, and they're just in the water.
Right.
You get money. He gets money and the thrill, whatever. You know, it's whatever. People are psycho. But I'm just saying, so there's people that believe in snakes, but you wouldn't even understand the kind of snakes that exist.
True.
So something that you think doesn't exist, who says it doesn't? There's no evidence. There's not enough evidence for me that it doesn't exist for a lot of these things. And that's where, you know, there's a little bit of a crossover here with supernatural and cryptids. And I'm not trying to say all cryptids are supernatural or anything like that.
I think
there's
it's
plenty.
Okay to say, I don't know what the heck is going on.
Well, yeah. But I do think that, you know, plenty of people, they deny the supernatural and it blends into the cryptid world and so on. Because there's plenty of cryptids that, I believe certain things exist that people won't. And I'm not sitting here saying this from a pastoral perspective. Once again, I'm not saying this is theology that you should have as far as Loch Ness Monster, Sasquatch, and so on. But the theology side is you should definitely believe in the supernatural.
Yeah.
And you need to dive into it a little bit. It doesn't need to become your entire life, but you need to dive into it because then you will also unlock all the supernatural things God has for you. Because you hear about the supernatural, demonic activity, and all this stuff, and you might think, oh my word, this is terrifying, and that's why I don't want to believe it. No, believe it, because guess what? You're protected. And here's how. But you need to know...
You know, it's crazy.
This and that, yeah.
Some of the different podcasts that I'll listen to, right? Because I enjoy hearing people's stories. And
oh,
stuff.
for sure.
Just, you know, especially different things. There's one I've shared it with a couple of guys here, and I'm telling you, it freak you out. It's this dude's encounter of something that happened in the land between the lakes, but
where's that?
In Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
Western Kentucky.
Sure.
But it's just it'll freak you out, man. But and it's
is there a museum near there?
That's in Georgia, North Georgia.
Okay, because I drove past that and I wanted to stop, and Naomi wouldn't let.
What?
Well, we needed to make some headway. We spent like 2 hours in a Western store.
Too, but I mean, we drove from Orlando back up here.
That's where we were.
I was like, I'm sorry, we don't have time.
Same exact trip we were doing, and we had just spent 2 hours in Cavenders, which is south of Atlanta.
Okay, yeah.
And so then it was like
Northern Georgia is beautiful, dude. I love that area.
Yeah.
But anyway, listen to these accounts. There are a lot of people who've been very dormant in their faith or didn't really have any faith that actually have come to believe in Jesus, and because of maybe an experience that they had back then, they started to click with somebody else's story, and if that had to be true, well, what else is true, right?
Yeah.
And so it sparked from a Bigfoot podcast into them coming back to Christ.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
So because people have started to realize there is so much more to this world than we've been told.
Oh, yeah.
We've been lied to. We've been duped.
Mm-hmm.
And we have zero power that we're exercising because we, as you said, we don't believe we have any power.
Yeah.
Most people don't believe if they see healing, somebody was actually healed.
Right.
We don't believe in any of this stuff, right? And people, I think now it's different. 2020 unlocked something good and bad, right?
Yes.
I've seen a lot of psycho out of people, right? You can call that demonic, whatever, but the look in people's eyes is different.
Mm-hmm.
But people are also, on the other hand, are now willing to accept that there is something else going on that we can't explain.
Oh, for sure.
And in people's curiosity, their need for people need a connection. They need a connection to a connection to a higher being, that they are starting to look at going back to church, right?
Or, for sure.
Or the biggest thing with them is, and I'm not opposed to this, right? I love our church and I love the connection we have, but a lot of people have negative experiences with church. So
for sure.
Their focus is on that relationship with Christ. Perfect.
Yep.
Right? Because that's what he wants.
Yeah.
So as much like just craziness as 2020 has brought in, it has also sparked something. Whereas some people, I'm not going to use directions because people are going to look at it a certain way, but people will, while one group may shift to one side and go almost militant with their thinking,
mm-hmm.
but I'll say that's on both sides.
For sure.
But there's both sides.
There's extremes everywhere.
And then there's a middle that is searching for an answer to what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
And the thing we have to be careful of is where the young people are looking right now.
Sure.
Because they're looking at witchcraft.
Yeah. Occult. Knowledge outside of God.
And the power that they're getting from that. Because they don't see Christians wielding any power.
Right.
Right?
Oh, for sure.
Casting out demons, healing. We're not showing that.
No.
So, but they are seeing things from whatever entities that they're dealing with over in the occult.
Right.
They're experiencing that.
Whatever your opinions are, not just you, I mean everybody, on Andrew Tate.
Mm-hmm.
In an interview with Candace Owens, he talks about why he went from Christianity to Islam. And it came from looking at America and being like, Christians are weak. You don't stand for what the Christian laws are. You don't stand for what God says things are.
Yeah.
And then he looks at a place like Dubai. He looks at the Islamic culture and he's like, they stand up for it. There's strength in it. There's power in it. And it's not necessarily supernatural. It's the way his mind works, right? Because everything is a respect game.
Yeah.
Do I have the power?
We're going to do this or we're going to do this or not.
Yep. And that's his ideal. So when you look at America, it's you're letting people do this in the streets and you're doing this and no Christian standing up. And there's some truth to that. And it's a hard-hitting truth, is that we will lose people because of our weak mindset in that aspect, because we don't operate in the power and authority God gave us. I'm not saying that we need to do, take sinners and throw them off of rooftops or do anything like that. No. But there is a power that God gave us. Mm-hmm. We need to be in the streets and we do need to confront evil. Yeah. How we do it is important. Confronting evil is not, let me go argue with you over everything. It is confronting evil. Scripture's clear on it. We don't need to go through a whole theology lesson. Confronting evil with God's grace and the transformation in Jesus, and then they will understand the law. He came to fulfill the law, yada, yada, yada. But that doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that, one, I think Andrew Tate is misunderstanding what the power aspect is when you're in Christianity. But two, he's also kind of right that there is a godless nation in America, which once was not perfectly, but founded on like a belief in God. Not perfectly. It needed some workshopping, but it at least was like, hey, God, it's like a new
need perfect men no.
It's like when somebody first comes to know the Lord and they're still cussing a little bit and they're still doing it. They're still.
No. I'm trying to work out. It comes out. It slips every now and then.
I'm not throwing shade. I'm not pointing. No, but it's God will take that.
This far in this interview without
you're doing great. No, but God will take that person and He'll work through that person more than He will the perfect person.
But the world right now is, the way the world is that person of, oh, you're not perfect. Oh, you still swear. Like, dude, I, 2 weeks ago he pulled me out of the gutter. I'm sorry that I still say the F bomb,
Yep.
but I mean, I used to be, addicted to coke and everything,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Now the concern, but that's how we are.
Yep.
Right. And unfortunately, we're like that in the church.
For sure. That's the thing is you never know if somebody's on their way up or down.
Right.
When you go to the gym and you see a rather large person on the treadmill, they could have already lost 200 pounds and they're on their way. Well, in that case, it'd be down in weight, but up in success.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't know if they're on their way up or down.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. And that's why we're not supposed to judge that. That's why we're not supposed to do that. And that's the problem. But we are to counteract evil with good.
Yeah.
With good.
You mean not screaming at them with it or posting a Facebook message condemning them to hell and
Exactly. And so
I found that it really brings followers.
Oh, dude, it's great. It's great. There's also people that believe, and this is what 2020 exposed. Like you said, there was a lot of things that was exposed to a lot of people and opened the eyes to a lot of people. I had a great eye-opening year, even though it was an awful year.
Oh, it was my best.
It was a great but bad year. Like, it was weird. So many bad things were happening, but I was having a great year.
Yeah.
It was weird. But that's how God works. I can work all things out for my good. As long as we're staying on his path and doing his will, we'll be part of that. And so what was I going to say? It was exposing a whole bunch of different things. And we saw people get separated from the church that they weren't bringing light where they went. Mm-hmm. The wheat from the chaff, right? That separate, and then also bringing people into the church.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's people that came to find their faith.
Yeah.
And that's important. That's an important process. That's one of those things that happens because I saw a lot of people and I heard a lot of people saying that, no, I need to change who they vote for before I can tell them about God. No, I think we should tell them about God and let him handle who they vote for. And that's what I'm saying is we do it wrong. There's a wrong way to do this. And that's where I'm like, we're supposed to confront evil, but we're not confronting it the right way.
Confronting evil with evil.
Right. Exactly. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to play on your playing field.
Yeah.
Because if I do that, we're both lost. We're both lost.
Right.
Yeah.
The whole goal is to convince somebody that, that your life is better with Christ.
Right.
And if I'm just projecting that I'm a terrible person, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be better.
No. And that's the thing is, I've come to know quite a few people, and vulnerability in my weakness isn't alone what impacted them. It was vulnerability and weakness, but with the attitude of, I'm going to get better. Mm-hmm. Like you said, somebody notices that you're cussing and they're like, you're cussing, but you're a Christian. It's like, yeah, but you know what? This is where I was, this is where I am, but that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And because of God. That is how it's supposed to be handled. And if then they take that and say, well, you're still not supposed to be, that's your problem. That's not mine. And then we're able to be free from that. That's the problem, is that there's so many things in that situation when they say that and we say, well, this is where I was, this is where I'm going and all this stuff. And then they respond, well, you still shouldn't be doing that. Then it's, well, you know what? And then it's same playing field.
But you know what? One day I'll get there.
Yep. Right. And that's the right response. But then all of a sudden it becomes a trap. And then we're confronting evil.
I think we get irritated with the gotcha little thing. The snide comment.
I wish people would just stop. Just stop paying attention to everybody else's sin.
Oh, yeah.
Pay attention to your own.
Oh, mine's not so bad when I look at yours.
It's so frustrating. And especially as a pastor. Because as a pastor, I'm not perfect. There's sin in my life. 100%. Any pastor that plays it off or doesn't talk about this is full of crap. They're full of crap. Okay? And the problem is, though, in the culture of pastoralhood, there's not much grace for a pastor who has sin. There's not. Now, I do believe in a higher standard. I do believe that we will be held accountable at a higher standard, but not understand when Scripture's talking about that, it's not saying that you, the congregation, hold me to a higher standard.
No,
It's
he's
saying
gonna hold
God's
you.
going to hold me to a higher standard in how I handle you, the flock. When it comes to sin in my own personal life and my soul, that's between me and him. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that every pastor should be allowed to get away with sin. I don't think anybody should be allowed to get away with sin. But we're all on that process. And how many pastors then, what happens is Ravi Zacharias, right? If you don't know who he is, you can look, they can look him up, whatever, severe sin issues in his life. But I bet it didn't start there.
Yeah.
It probably started with a little bit of lust when unchecked. Mm-hmm. Then it turned into porn addiction. Then it turned into action. Then it turned into what it turned into. Now, I don't know his life. I don't know how he handled it. But when the lust went unchecked, instead of going and talking to somebody about it, having a friend who is going to show grace but also hold you accountable, then that didn't happen. That didn't necessarily happen. And if it did happen, I wouldn't imagine it ended up where it was. But if he had that, and if we have that, then it doesn't keep him hiding it. Because the longer you hide sin, the more it's just going to, like you talked about earlier, snowball downhill, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse.
I think it's hard for guys because I think guys, one, you don't show weakness around other men.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? You don't. And most men don't. You don't want to tell your deep, dark secrets to somebody else, because I think not a whole lot of people have somebody that they feel that they can share those things with.
Oh, dude, yeah, no way.
I think it's
all been burned.
Very few, and yes, and I would say I would venture to say, good luck finding any man who would share 100%.
Yeah,
with somebody else.
Oh, for sure.
You're not going to find it.
There's somebody that you share this with. There's somebody that you share this with, but nobody's getting the 100%.
And nobody's getting the really bad stuff.
Oh, for sure.
And
and that's the problem. That's part of the problem. I don't know how to overcome that. The problem is they got
that far.
Right.
But
correct.
You look at it as even the start, the fact that if I went and spend an extra hour talking to this woman and I'm married, right?
Yep.
When I didn't need to talk to them, it wasn't about work, because
right.
We all know that we spend a little, if we've spent a little extra time that we shouldn't have, but it was no big deal. I don't say anything to anybody, or I don't want to say anything to this person because they're you just don't want to hear it.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
And then it's going to build into into the next thing, and by that point, oh shoot, you know what? I need to keep this under wraps. I can't let anybody find out about it.
Because then pretty soon you make a mistake that you're like, oh, I really can't tell you.
And that's how this snowballs.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. And I'd say for men, one of the biggest things that's going to snowball is lust.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it's what sex and alcohol are probably the pride, throw that in there too, but when you look at it, sex and alcohol will drop most men.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it's the way that it goes. And because there's a lie that every guy tells himself, is that I can handle this because I'm a man. And that's where the pride sneaks in, and it keeps it bolstered against those things, dealing with those things, because I can handle this. I can handle this.
Conversation with somebody very close to me who's dealing with alcohol, and like it bad, bad, hospital bad, and looking at quitting. And I was telling him, I was like, you need to start looking to Jesus to help you with this.
Yeah.
And he had that attitude of, I can do this. I was like, look, man, if you were strong enough to do this, you would have done it.
Yeah.
You cannot do this on your own.
Right.
Doesn't mean you're weak. It's just you have created a condition that you have got so deep into it, you cannot see over it.
Right.
You cannot get out of this without his help.
Yep.
If you want out of this, you have got to humble yourself and ask.
Yeah.
Because if you continue to think, I've got this, if you wanted to quit before, then why didn't you?
Right.
Because you couldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lie that we tell ourselves. It's a lie. It kind of almost ties back into that
No, I'm just making sure.
No, yeah, you're good. And whenever we're getting close, so whenever you need, do you have a time?
Not particularly,
Okay,
just
but obviously not.
give me like another 15.
Sure, yeah,
Well,
that's fine.
actually, we wrapped it because there's something, the other thing that I want
Oh
to talk
yeah,
about.
there's a couple things I want to talk to you about too. But yeah, I mean, so we're coming full circle at that point because it ties back into men these days.
Yeah.
Men's. Oh my word, men these days, and the weakness and the victim mentality. We are a victim, and we're weak, and in those moments, it's that private thing. I can control this. And we finally get to exert what we always want to, but it's the thing we're not supposed to, right? Like that struggle, that addiction, or whatever it is, that's the thing we're supposed to give up control to God. And we're supposed to find accountability and find a brother and find this. We're supposed to give up control.
Yeah.
But these other things, oh, dude. But then it's these other things.
Control freaks, line of work, right?
Yeah. Sorry, not line of work, but I'm a control freak.
No, but still,
yeah.
Or, like my former line of work, everybody's a control freak. You should have seen that coming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. But then the things that we are supposed to take control of, self-control, our thoughts, our actions, our body, our health, the food, our relationships, all these things. I just let whatever happened to me happen to me.
Yeah.
I let life happen to me. I don't take control. But then this thing over here, I think I can control it. And really, it's then all of a sudden, it's like playing with the match and then you burn the whole house down.
Warped view of what we can and cannot control on our own.
Which is where the enemy wants us.
Yeah, it's funny is we're trying to control the things that we have no control over and not even controlling all the things that we do have control over.
I'm going to have to replay that and listen to it.
But in the end, I'll tell you, do I think there is hope for men? I do.
Oh, for sure.
But and what I think all it takes is one man.
Sure.
One man with courage.
Yep.
To do something to show the other men that it's okay to be a dude.
Yeah.
That it's not toxic.
Right. Right.
That there's a reason why certain movies resonate with a significant, number of men.
Oh yeah.
Is because you're looking at it saying, see, it's not just me.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of how many movies from Sniper and all these movies of these men, these, modern day mighty men doing these valiant acts.
Yep.
And most men be like, oh, I can do that. No, bro. No, you couldn't. But you can
see that guy in the background waving the flag that as this guy is going to war, that's you.
Because you think of the amount of discipline and training that these men have put into this.
Yeah.
And most men haven't even reached a level. And that's when you think of David's mighty men. They're like the modern day, they're like the Delta Force and the SEAL Team 6 and the top tier operators of those days of what God assembled to do that. It's the best of the best, right?
Yep. The problem is our view of that is messed up.
How do you mean?
Like the mighty men. Nowadays, if we were thinking about godly man who's going to be a mighty man of God, we wouldn't picture them like that.
No ragtag group.
Ragtag group, little rough, doing work.
You know what? Men that lived. Benaiah jumped in a snowy cave and slayed a lion.
Yeah.
Right? That's not stuff that the gentleman does.
Right.
Right? That is stuff that the gruff dude who's been through hell on earth and come out the other side, that's the stuff he does, right? So these men who've lived and been battle tested,
right?
I'm not talking just comment, living through life, right? Going through spiritual battle tested. You've come through the other side, and you've beaten the enemy on that. The amount that these guys, the significant amount of inspiration that these guys can provide, right?
Yeah.
Testimonies are very important.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, for men going forward, just being able to have that person, even to spark it.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
And this isn't, just as way of like any revolution. Really, it takes a single person maybe just to it takes that spark,
Yep.
right? So I mean, so there definitely is, and then if we're bringing Christ into it,
For sure.
um, I mean, there's definitely, because there are people
So,
right now are scrambling for answers.
oh yeah.
Youth are scrambling for answers.
Yep.
We just have to be able to sit there and just do. It's just Jesus, man.
Yeah.
It's just Jesus.
So be that guy. Be that guy in your group. Be the guy that starts the spark. I'm not just talking. I'm talking about anybody that listens to it. Be that guy. Like, don't look for that guy. Don't look for the guy.
Yeah,
Be the guy.
yeah. Everybody's looking for that modern day savior.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he already came. He's there. Now
There-
do his work.
There might be a time where I'm not saying I'm not looking to be contradicting to like the accountability thing we were just saying. No, you need accountability. You need bros to do that. But when it comes to becoming this guy, you might have to go it alone for a little bit.
Let's step up.
Step up.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little lonely. Now, you still need accountability partners. I'm not saying you're alone. But like when you start pushing yourself to become this guy, it might be a little lonely road until they catch up. Until they catch up.
Or if they don't, he just starts bringing in other people to support you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
We're afraid to step forward.
He sees you.
Because we don't want to lose what's behind, right?
Yeah.
Lot's wife. She fled from that. She looked back and turned to salt, right? Because we're longing for what was behind us,
Yeah.
And when we're told not to,
Right. 100%. So
it's scary.
wait, we've been talking some serious stuff. And now for a minute, I want to ask a question. And this is still kind of serious, but I want to end it with this because I think that it ties into what we're talking about, and I will find a way to tie it in. Would you recommend the military?
I've have my third child shipped out a couple days ago for his training, for his basic training.
Yeah.
So it's 3 out of 4 of my kids.
Yeah.
Have decided to enlist, and I tried to push the last one to maybe go Air Force, just because 22 years in the Army, I learned a thing too.
Sure.
But he ended up going Army, and so 3 out of my 4 did it.
Yeah.
So people can say whatever they want about today's climate. I mean, you've got to be able to go in and adjust to the climate you're in, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, and it's one of the big things is what you're going to get out of it, especially somebody from a small town.
So that was kind of why I asked you, because what we've been talking about is men getting better, and accountability. Sometimes there's extreme circumstances where you need to go through a boot camp. And I don't know, and I don't mean basic training. I mean, like, you need to go through a serious thing, like almost like detox. And so I just wanted to know if you would recommend.
Go through a battle.
Yeah.
This is what I've come to realize. Every man at some point in his life he needs to have his mettle tested. You have to see what you're capable of. If you do not ever, if you're not ever pushed to the brink, you have no clue what you're capable of. Not
right. So would you say, you know what? Snowmobiles. Would you say there's enough things in this world and in this life that you can sign up for that help you do that? Or would you say military is the best route? Because military is really,
I don't think it's the best.
It's not the best for everybody.
No.
I mean, it is hard to say like a general prescription, but like,
because I've met some people that it's just like, dude, you'd end up like, no, it's not good for you.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people aren't pushed at all today.
Right, and that's what I mean is like,
I don't have anything at all against college. I have a master's.
I hate college.
But it's today you're sent there and you're just taught what to think, not how to think.
Yeah.
Versus like on a route like military,
they're gonna give you a system to live by.
You go to a trade school.
Yeah.
You have to get your hands dirty and you have to do the work to learn how to do it.
For sure.
Right? Military, it's taught me, and I still lack discipline. There's a lot of things that it didn't get out of me because I and I'm not saying this is like, oh, bad. There's certain things that I just refuse to relent and give over to, which is good and bad because I still struggle with those things with God, right?
For sure.
There's certain things it's like, no, this is mine, and you made me like this, and he's like, no, the world made you like that. I didn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, but there's a lot of things that it has taught me, has instilled in me that are positive. There's a way of thinking that, a lot of people cannot understand, but I don't need them to understand. It's just my way of thinking of how I process things, because 22 years of doing it a certain way.
Yeah.
I exhaust myself with plan A through Z because I have to figure out every contingency or else I didn't plan for it. Right. But, but there are a lot of really solid things, but there are also those life experiences that you're going to learn, of really getting through adversity. I mean, I'm not saying people who haven't. Some people have gone through some severe.
Oh, for sure. There are other options to figure this, to get through this.
And for me, I look at it as harder for some of these people to go through it. I've dealt with some stuff, buried soldiers, and dealt with that. And then after we came back, I mean, the amount of suicides was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it was angering and maddening, and all that stuff you're having to sit there and and learn to cope with and deal with, while at the same time also learning to put something above yourself.
Sure.
Because if you put nothing above yourself, then you are your own idol, right?
Oh,
you
for
are
sure.
your God.
Yeah.
Right.
And then that's not going to go well.
No.
So, like, and we can wrap it up with this. Like, I'm thinking of like the kid that just comes out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
To like put a parent at ease and to give that kid an idea. Because I remember coming through high school, it was, you go to college or you're a failure.
Yeah, that's what I was told.
Yeah.
I blew a lot of money.
Yeah. That's the same thing happened to me. If I could go back, it would be military. 100%. Even if it was the minimum. Like the 2 year, 3, whatever it was when I was there. It would have been something else. It would have been that. And even trade school obviously is way better. I do have a personal disdain for college. I think there's certain jobs that you have to go to college and you should go to college.
You don't.
But the vast majority you don't. You don't. And so that's why I'm asking you, like, is this something where you'd be like, you could honestly, genuinely go to a parent and be like, give your kid the option to go to the military. It's worth it.
I like the path that I did my 1 year, and then because I learned a little bit of what it was like outside of it, and once I joined, I was able to see what it was that I wasn't missing.
Sure.
And what I could have also become. But I think, especially from a small town, I think kids have to leave because you don't know what the rest of the world is like if your entire life is Sparta,
You need a little perspective.
Westby, something like that. Even lacrosse, right? You have got to get out and you have got to experience other people, right? In their element.
Sure.
Not your element, their element, right?
Yeah.
Outside of your comfort zone. You get to sit there and learn how they do things everywhere else, right? That's how, after I'm sitting here and going through multiple foreign countries, I can sit there and say, dang, man, we are so spoiled, right? Because you're getting out and, I don't remember who said it, a quote to the effect of, the best cure for ignorance is traveling.
Yeah. Yeah. It provides so much perspective.
You have to get out and experience life. So semis in school, look, I know they would get mad at us when I was in recruiting, when people would ask about the dangers. Like, today there's dangers in going to school, man.
Oh.
There's dangers in going to Walmart. The flower section. Don't go, right? Stop, drop, and roll. They don't teach that anymore, right? There is dangers in everything.
For sure.
Right?
You can't control it all.
At least in the Army, they taught me how to fight back.
Yeah.
They taught me what to look for, how to be
They didn't villainize that thing in us that we're supposed to have.
No. They bring that out. They will help you hone that.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Dude, well, I think this episode's going to do really good. I think a lot of people are going to like it. So there's a good chance.
I'm rambling, but
we'll have to come back. Well, it's same.
Well, I mean,
there might be. I might need a cryptid. Who knows what people say? Oh yeah, there'll be a good chance that you'll be back on. Might need a cryptid update one of these days or something.
not to spoil it fans because fans, right? I always no, but a friend we want to get a podcast going. It's just right now I'm coaching basketball.
Oh, dude,
Some of this stuff is
it's crazy.
And he's doing stuff, so trying to find the time, but we want to do it on different supernatural things in just Wisconsin. Yeah. So we're talking UFOs to ghosts and like my whole neighborhood, man. Growing up was like my best friend Grub, it's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Dan. Like when we were teenagers, I'd always hang out at his house, and I was home before we had cell phones. The house phone rang. He's like, "Dude, you need to get over here now." I was like, "What's going?" He's like, "Just get over here." So jump on the bike, boom, haul up to this place like a mile away. I go rolling in. I was like, "What's up, man?" And he's freaking out. He's upstairs. He's like, "Dude." He's like, I was downstairs because that's where he had his TV. We'd watch MTV and VH1 when they played music videos. Yep. Little Coolio and Ice Cube. But he was down there watching it, and my friend had this massive iguana. I mean, he called it, his name was Iggy. This thing was about as big as your table. So sheesh. 4 foot long, massive. Heat control, heat lamps, all that stuff. And, sometimes Iggy would get out. And he's like, I heard Iggy walking from the room all the way across and start coming down the steps. And he's like, I got up to go get Iggy, and there was nothing there. So he heard the steps coming down, and he freaked out. He's like, just stay here a little bit, dude. Like the amount of stories.
For sure.
That happen. Like there's old Indian battles. The amount, as I tell people, it's like the Bible is not a worldwide account, right? Yeah. Once you get past the flood and God, and I've got a theory on Tower of Babel and God spreading people out, which won't be for today. Sure. But after that, it comes down to a story of what's going on in the Middle East, Israel, and what's going on with the people there. But God had spread everybody else around the earth. What was going on? Because if we hear about all the craziness going on with the sacrificing and everything within that area, where what the heck was going on in the rest of the world? Just as crazy stuff or crazier? I don't know.
Who knows?
So the amount of stuff that happened in this land, who's to know? Well, natives come on here under those Serpent Mountains and say, we didn't build these were here when we got here. So what's up what's up
with that? So if you're watching this podcast in the future and it's on YouTube, there'll be a link to Vince's podcast in the description. Whenever it's set up. That's what I'm saying. If it's far enough in the future, I'll have the link there. And stay tuned for future episodes where Vince comes back. Because, I'm definitely having you back on. Because there's
that'd be fun, man.
Too much that we didn't get to get into. But we got into plenty.
Yeah, but we solved all the world's problems right here, bro.
I appreciate you, dude.